The Vorthok was a creature of nightmares, even by galactic standards. Spanning 300 meters from snout to tail, its obsidian scales reflected the dying light of distant stars as it drifted through the void between worlds. 6 wings, each the size of a battleship, propelled it through space without need for atmosphere or artificial propulsion. This was Zarthul the Devourer, the last of the ancient Vorthok dragons that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia. For 10,000 years, Zarthul had carved a path of destruction across inhabited systems. Entire civilizations had fallen to its hunger. The crystalline hegemony, masters of energy manipulation, had been reduced to glowing dust. The Meccano Collective, with their planet-sized war machines, had been torn apart by claws that could slice through neutronium. Even the mighty ethereal confederacy, beings of pure psychic energy, had fled to the outer rim rather than face this apex predator. Today, Zarthul approached a small, unremarkable blue-green world in a spiral arm that most galactic maps didn't even bother to label. The planet's primitive electromagnetic emissions suggested a young civilization, barely past their industrial age. Perfect prey. The dragon's 6 eyes, each the size of a space station, focused on the world with predatory interest. Its consciousness, ancient and vast, felt only mild curiosity about what new flavors this world might offer. The humans of Earth had no idea death was approaching. Their most advanced telescopes couldn't detect something that moved between dimensions as easily as swimming through water. Their military satellites registered nothing as Zarthul phased into normal space just beyond their moon's orbit. The dragon's presence caused minor gravitational anomalies that their scientists would later dismiss as instrument errors. But there was something different about this hunting ground. As Zarthul extended its cosmic senses toward the planet, it encountered something unexpected. The minds below weren't just primitive. They were chaotic, contradictory, and utterly unpredictable. Most species the dragon had encountered followed logical patterns. Fear, desperation, futile resistance, then acceptance. These creatures called humans seemed to ping between courage and terror, love and hatred, creation and destruction, sometimes within the same individual consciousness. The dragon paused, intrigued despite itself. In its long existence, it had developed something approaching boredom with the predictability of prey. These humans might actually provide some entertainment before their inevitable consumption. Zarthul began to descend, its massive form casting shadows across the lunar surface that would have terrified any human observer, had they been present to witness it. As the dragon approached Earth's atmosphere, it detected something else unusual. Scattered across the planet were structures and emissions that suggested these humans had achieved something remarkable. They had begun reaching beyond their world. Primitive spacecraft dotted their local space, and radio signals carried their voices and images across the cosmos. Most impressive of all, they had actually visited their own moon and returned safely. For a species barely past stone tools by galactic standards, this was extraordinary. Zarthul felt the first stirring of genuine interest it had experienced in centuries. Perhaps these humans might last more than a few moments when it announced its presence. The dragon's massive form began to heat as it entered the upper atmosphere, creating auroras that danced across Earth's poles as its cosmic energies interacted with the planet's magnetic field. Below, in a small research facility hidden deep within the Amazon rainforest, Dr. Sarah Chen noticed the unusual electromagnetic readings on her instruments. As the world's leading expert on gravitational anomalies, she recognized that something massive and unnatural was approaching Earth. Her hands trembled as she reached for the red phone that connected directly to military command centers around the globe. Humanity's first contact with an alien intelligence was about to begin, though they had no idea they were about to meet their potential extinction. The dragon's massive form broke through the cloud layer above the Pacific Ocean, its presence immediately detected by every advanced sensor on the planet. Military installations went to high alert. Emergency broadcasts began flooding every communication channel. Religious leaders proclaimed everything from the apocalypse to divine intervention. Scientists scrambled to understand readings that broke every known law of physics. Zarthul hovered above the ocean, its 6 wings creating hurricane-force winds that sent tsunamis racing toward distant coastlines. The dragon's ancient mind analyzed the responses below with growing fascination. Instead of simply fleeing or cowering in terror, the humans were doing something unprecedented. They were fighting back. Primitive nuclear missiles, laughably ineffective against its cosmic defenses, streaked toward its position from multiple continents simultaneously. The dragon allowed the weapons to impact its scales. Curious about these creatures' determination, the nuclear explosions looked like fireflies against its obsidian hide, causing no damage but providing valuable data about human capabilities. What impressed Zarthul wasn't their firepower, which was negligible, but their immediate coordination. Despite being scattered across their world in competing nations and cultures, they had responded to an existential threat with remarkable unity. As the dragon prepared to descend further and begin the traditional intimidation phase of its hunt, something caught its attention. Hidden deep within the Amazon facility where Dr. Chen worked, protected by layers of security and scientific equipment, was something that made Zarthul's ancient consciousness recoil in shock. The humans had somehow acquired a fragment of the forbidden fruit, the legendary cosmic artifact that had been lost for millions of years. The dragon's hunger suddenly became secondary to a more primal emotion, desperate need. The forbidden fruit was not actually a fruit, but rather a crystalline fragment of pure cosmic consciousness that had been created during the birth of the universe itself. Legend spoke of a tree that grew at the center of all existence, bearing fruit that contained the fundamental knowledge of space, time, and reality. When the tree had been destroyed in an ancient war between cosmic entities, its seeds had scattered across the galaxy, most lost forever in the void between stars. Dr. Sarah Chen had discovered the fragment 3 years earlier during a deep-core drilling project in the Amazon. The crystal, no larger than a baseball, had been buried 12 kilometers beneath the Earth's surface, surrounded by rock formations that shouldn't have existed according to conventional geology. When exposed to certain electromagnetic frequencies, the fragment exhibited properties that defied every known law of physics. It seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, occasionally becoming translucent and showing glimpses of possible futures. The research team had kept their discovery absolutely secret, knowing that such a find would either be confiscated by world governments or cause global panic if its true nature was revealed. They had spent 3 years carefully studying the artifact, slowly learning to interpret the visions it provided. The fragment seemed to respond to conscious observation, showing different possible timelines based on current events and decisions. Zarthul descended rapidly toward the Amazon facility, its massive form causing storms to spiral outward from its path. The dragon's 6 eyes blazed with cosmic fire as it detected the fragment's unique energy signature growing stronger. For millions of years, the Vorthak had searched for even the smallest piece of the forbidden fruit, knowing that consuming it would grant knowledge of all possible futures and make them truly omniscient predators. Inside the facility, Dr. Chen and her team watched in terror as their instruments detected the alien creature's approach. The fragment itself began to pulse with increasing intensity, its crystalline structure resonating with some unknown frequency. Through its translucent surface, they could see flashing images of destruction, death, and what appeared to be the end of human civilization. "It's coming for this," Dr. Chen whispered to her colleague, Dr. James Morrison, as they stared at the fragment. "Whatever that thing is, it knows we have this artifact." The facility's automated defense systems were laughably inadequate against a cosmic-level threat. But the research team had one advantage. They had spent 3 years learning to interpret the fragment's visions. In the swirling images within the crystal, they could see multiple possible outcomes of the next few hours. Most showed Earth as a lifeless husk, its population consumed by the approaching monster. But a few timelines showed something different. The dragon writhing in agony, its massive form convulsing as if poisoned. Dr. Morrison, a former military engineer before becoming a physicist, quickly understood what the fragment was showing them. "Sarah, look at these readings. Every timeline where the creature consumes the fragment shows it experiencing some kind of violent reaction. Whatever this thing is, it's not meant to be eaten by something like that dragon." The facility shook as Zarthul landed in the jungle above them, its massive claws tearing through ancient trees like they were grass. The dragon's cosmic senses could pinpoint the fragment's exact location, 12 kilometers below the surface. With a roar that shattered windows across 3 continents, Zarthul began to dig. Each swipe of the dragon's claws carved away hundreds of tons of earth and rock. Its cosmic fire breath melted through bedrock like it was ice. The creature's determination was absolute. After eons of searching, it would finally possess a fragment of the forbidden fruit. The knowledge contained within would make it the ultimate predator, able to see every possible future and prevent any prey from escaping its hunger. As the dragon dug deeper, governments around the world mobilized their most powerful weapons. Hydrogen bombs were launched from submarines. Orbital kinetic weapons were fired from secret military satellites, and experimental particle beam arrays focused their energy on the creature. The attacks were continuous and devastating, turning the Amazon into a hellscape of nuclear fire and exotic radiation. Zarthul barely noticed the assault. Its obsidian scales had been forged in the heart of dying stars and were impervious to any weapon these primitive creatures could devise. The dragon's only focus was reaching the fragment below. With each passing minute, it carved deeper into the earth, leaving a perfectly cylindrical shaft in its wake. Inside the facility, the research team made a desperate decision. They couldn't prevent the dragon from reaching them, but they could ensure that when it consumed the fragment, the consequences would be far more severe than the creature anticipated. Dr. Chen activated a containment protocol they had developed for their most dangerous experiments. The fragment was placed inside a specially designed chamber that amplified its dimensional properties. Instead of showing glimpses of possible futures, the crystal would now force those visions directly into the consciousness of anyone who consumed it. Every possible timeline, every potential outcome, every alternative reality would flood into the dragon's mind simultaneously. If that thing wants to see the future, Dr. Chen said grimly, let's give it all of them at once. The dragon broke through the facility's outer defenses like they were made of paper. Its massive head, easily 50 meters wide, smashed through reinforced concrete and titanium barriers as if they were soap bubbles. The research team huddled around their instruments, watching the fragment pulse with increasingly violent energy as the creature approached. Zarthul's 6 eyes focused on the small crystalline object, feeling the cosmic power radiating from it like heat from a star. This was it, the key to ultimate knowledge, the power to see all possible futures and become truly omniscient. The dragon's massive jaws opened wide, revealing teeth the size of skyscrapers as it prepared to claim its prize. Dr. Chen stepped forward cautiously, her scientific curiosity overcoming her terror. The dragon's voice had carried an undertone of genuine confusion, and what sounded almost like regret. She activated her communication device knowing that whatever happened next would be recorded for history, assuming humanity had a future to remember it. You can understand us? She asked, her voice barely steady. Zarthul's massive head lowered until one of its eyes was level with the human scientist. The eye alone was the size of a small building, its cosmic depths swirling with colors that didn't have names in any human language. I understand everything now, the dragon replied. The fragment has shown me not just your futures, but your essence. I have lived through the experiences of billions of your kind across countless timelines. The revelation that followed changed everything humanity thought they knew about their place in the universe. Through the fragment's visions, Zarthul had discovered that humans were not an evolutionary accident, but rather the product of an ancient cosmic experiment. Eons ago, when the original tree bearing the forbidden fruit was destroyed, its essence had scattered across the galaxy in the form of seeds. Most had been lost in the void, but one had eventually taken root on a small blue world. The seed had not grown into a physical tree, but instead had influenced the evolution of the planet's dominant species, slowly shaping them over millions of years. Humans were the fruit of that cosmic tree, beings capable of growth, change, and inspiring transformation in others. Their chaotic nature, their unpredictability, their ability to find hope in hopeless situations, all of it was part of their cosmic heritage. You are gardeners, Zarthul explained, its voice filled with awe. In every timeline I have seen, your species spreads across the galaxy not as conquerors but as cultivators. You plant the seeds of cooperation, growth, and positive change wherever you go. Even the most hostile species become better versions of themselves after encountering humans. Dr. Morrison, who had been frantically taking notes throughout the conversation, looked up with sudden realization. That's why you reacted so violently to consuming the fragment. You're a predator by nature, but the vision showed you what it means to be a nurturer instead. The dragon's massive form shuddered slightly. For millions of years, I have been the antithesis of what you represent. I destroy civilizations while you build them. I spread fear while you spread hope. I consume life while you nurture it. The fragment has shown me that my existence has been incomplete. What happened next would be debated by philosophers and theologians for generations. Zarthul, the most feared predator in galactic history, began to weep. The dragon's tears were not water but liquid starlight that fell to earth like gentle rain, healing the destruction its rampage had caused. Where the tears touched the scorched earth, new plants began to grow, species that had never existed before, created by the interaction of cosmic essence with terrestrial life. The fragment had shown Zarthul something even more profound than the power of human nature. In the deepest visions beyond all the possible timelines and futures, the dragon had glimpsed the ultimate purpose of the universe itself. Existence was not about the survival of the strongest or the domination of the weak. It was about growth, cooperation, and the endless potential for beings to become more than they thought possible. I have spent eons believing that power came from destruction, the dragon said, its voice heavy with newfound understanding. But the fragment has shown me that true power comes from creation, from helping others grow beyond their limitations. You humans do this instinctively. You take broken things and make them whole. You find potential in the most unlikely places. Dr. Chen felt a strange sense of destiny settling over her. The fragment had not found its way to Earth by accident, and her team's discovery of it had not been random chance. Everything had been building toward this moment, the first time in galactic history that a cosmic predator had chosen transformation over destruction. What happens now? She asked. Zarthul's massive form began to shimmer and change. The dragon's obsidian scales took on a pearlescent quality, reflecting not just light but possibility itself. Now I must choose. The fragment has shown me two paths. I can continue as I always have, destroying civilizations and consuming their essence until the galaxy is empty and dead. Or, the dragon paused, its 6 eyes focusing on something beyond the physical realm. In the fragment's visions, it had seen a third option that had never occurred to it before. Instead of being a force of destruction, Zarthul could become something unprecedented, a cosmic gardener, like humanity but on a galactic scale. Or I can become what I was always meant to be, the dragon continued, not a predator but a guardian, not a destroyer of civilizations but a protector of their growth. The fragment has shown me timelines where I work alongside humanity to nurture the development of countless species across the galaxy. The implications were staggering. A creature with Zarthul's cosmic-level abilities, working to protect and nurture developing civilizations instead of destroying them, could reshape the entire galaxy. Species that had hidden in fear for millennia could emerge and flourish. Worlds that had been barren could be seeded with life. The galaxy could enter a golden age of unprecedented growth and cooperation, but the transformation would not be easy. The dragon's predatory instincts were the result of millions of years of evolution and behavior. Changing its fundamental nature would require constant effort and the support of others who could help it stay on the path of nurturing, rather than destruction. I will need guides, Zarthul admitted, beings who can remind me of what I have learned when the old instincts return. The fragment has shown me that humans excel at this, taking broken things and helping them heal, taking destructive forces and redirecting them toward creation. Dr. Chen looked at her small team of researchers, and then back at the massive cosmic entity before them. The weight of galactic history was settling on their shoulders, but she could also feel the excitement of unlimited possibility. Humanity was about to take its first step onto the galactic stage, not as conquerors or victims, but as teachers and healers on a cosmic scale. The moment Zarthul's massive jaws closed around the amplified fragment, reality exploded inside the dragon's consciousness. Every possible future of the galaxy, every potential timeline, every alternative outcome crashed into its ancient mind simultaneously. The creature had expected to gain the ability to see and choose from different futures. Instead, it experienced all of them at once, as if living through millions of different lives in a single instant. The dragon's roar of triumph became a shriek of cosmic agony that shattered mountains and caused earthquakes across South America. Its massive form convulsed violently as the fragment's amplified power overwhelmed its consciousness. Zarthul saw itself destroying Earth in 10,000 different ways, but also witnessed humanity surviving and thriving in countless timelines. More disturbing still, it saw futures where humans became the dominant force in the galaxy, spreading across the stars like a cosmic tide. In one timeline, humans developed technology that allowed them to tame and ride creatures like Zarthul. In another, they discovered how to communicate with cosmic dragons and formed alliances that lasted millennia. Most shocking of all, the dragons saw futures where humanity's chaotic, unpredictable nature made them natural leaders of galactic civilization, bringing together species that had warred for eons. The fragment showed Zarthul something that shook its predatory worldview to its core. In every timeline where the dragon destroyed humanity, the galaxy eventually fell into stagnation and decay. The humans' unique combination of creativity, determination, and sheer bloody-minded stubbornness served as a catalyst for galactic evolution. Without them, civilization stopped growing, stopped exploring, stopped dreaming of better futures. Dr. Chen and her team watched in amazement as the massive dragon writhed in apparent agony, its cosmic fire breath carving random destruction across the landscape. The fragment's readings showed that instead of being consumed, it was pouring its entire accumulated knowledge directly into the creature's consciousness. 3 years of careful study had given them some immunity to the fragment's overwhelming visions, but the dragon was experiencing it all at once with no preparation. Through the chaos of infinite possibilities, Zarthul began to see patterns that terrified it. In timeline after timeline, humanity faced extinction-level threats and somehow survived through cooperation, ingenuity, and sheer refusal to give up. They survived planetary bombardments by building underground cities. They escaped dying stars by constructing generation ships. They even survived the heat death of the universe by discovering how to create pocket dimensions. But the most disturbing visions showed what happened when creatures like Zarthul tried to destroy them. The dragons either died in the attempt or, worse, became changed by the encounter. The fragment revealed that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their numbers. It was their ability to make other species better than they were before meeting them. Even cosmic predators became infected with human concepts like mercy, justice, and hope. The dragon saw a particularly vivid timeline where it succeeded in destroying Earth, only to spend the next 1,000,000 years haunted by regret and loneliness. In that future, Zarthul became the last living being in a galaxy full of dead worlds, having consumed every civilization without ever understanding what made them special. The creature realized that in every timeline where it gave in to its predatory instincts, it eventually destroyed itself along with everything else. As the visions continued to flood through its consciousness, Zarthul began to experience something unprecedented: doubt. For the first time in its existence, the dragon questioned whether devouring entire civilizations was actually the path to ultimate power. The fragment showed it that true strength came not from destruction, but from creation, cooperation, and the ability to inspire others to become better than they thought possible. The humans below watched as the dragon's movements became less violent and more confused. Its cosmic fire breath, which had been carving random destruction across the jungle, suddenly stopped. The creature's 6 massive eyes, each one larger than a city, began to show something that looked almost like recognition. The dragon was beginning to understand what it was seeing in the infinite timelines. Dr. Morrison checked his instruments and made a startling discovery. "Sarah, look at these readings." The fragment isn't just showing it possible futures. It's actually allowing the creature to experience the emotions and thoughts of every being in those timelines. It's feeling what it's like to be human, to be every species it's ever destroyed. The revelation explained the dragon's increasingly erratic behavior. Zarthul was experiencing empathy for the first time in its existence, feeling the terror and pain of its countless victims across multiple timelines. But more than that, it was also experiencing their hopes, dreams, and love for each other. The dragon was learning what it meant to care about something other than its own hunger. In one particularly powerful vision, Zarthul experienced life as a human parent watching their child take first steps. In another, it felt the pride of a scientist making a breakthrough that would benefit all of humanity. The dragon experienced the grief of losing loved ones, the joy of artistic creation, and the satisfaction of helping others succeed. Every positive human emotion flooded through its consciousness, reshaping its understanding of what life could be. The dragon's massive form suddenly went still. Its 6 eyes closed as it processed the overwhelming flood of information and emotion. For several minutes, the only sound was the settling debris from its earlier rampage. Then slowly, Zarthul opened its eyes and looked down at the small group of humans who had somehow managed to survive its arrival. When the dragon spoke, its voice was no longer the cosmic roar of a predator, but something softer, filled with wonder and confusion. "I have seen everything," it said, the words carrying across multiple dimensions and being understood by every consciousness capable of hearing them. "Every possible future, every choice, every outcome. And in all of them, you humans, you are the key to something greater than any single being could achieve alone." The cosmic judgment ritual began at the edge of Earth's solar system, in the vast space between worlds where the laws of physics bent to accommodate powers beyond mortal understanding. Zarthul positioned itself at the center of a complex geometric formation created by the hegemony fleet. Its massive form dwarfed by the sheer number of ships surrounding it, yet somehow still dominating the scene through its cosmic presence. Admiral Krixtal's flagship, the Memory of the Lost, took point position directly facing the dragon. The crystalline being's hatred for Zarthul was so intense it created visible distortions in the space around his ship. Behind him, representatives from the 11 other species that comprise the hegemony arranged themselves in a precise pattern designed to channel their combined consciousness into the judgment matrix. Dr. Chen and her team watched from Earth as the ritual began, their instruments barely capable of registering the cosmic energies being manipulated above them. The fragment in their laboratory pulsed in harmony with the distant ceremony, providing them with insights into what was happening on a level beyond normal observation. "It's not just allowing them to see its memories," Dr. Morrison observed, studying the fragment's projections. "The dragon is sharing its actual consciousness with them. They're experiencing what it feels like to be a cosmic predator, but also what it feels like to be capable of change." The first phase of the ritual involved each species representative entering Zarthul's memories of destroying their homeworld or attacking their people. Admiral Krixtal experienced firsthand the moment when the dragon had consumed his crystalline homeworld, feeling both the predator's hunger and the terror of billions of beings as they died. Commander Veltara of the Ethereal Confederacy lived through her people's desperate flight from their dimension when Zarthul had pursued them across multiple realities, but the fragment's influence ensured that the representatives experienced more than just the destruction. They also felt Zarthul's growing emptiness as eons passed, the increasing boredom and isolation that came from being the galaxy's ultimate predator with no equals or challenges. They experienced the dragon's gradual realization that consuming civilizations was ultimately self-defeating, as each victory left the galaxy a little more empty and lifeless. The most shocking revelation came when the representatives experienced Zarthul's encounter with the fragment and humanity. They felt the dragon's cosmic consciousness being overwhelmed by infinite possibilities, its predatory worldview being shattered by exposure to concepts like cooperation, sacrifice, and unconditional love. For beings who had spent centuries planning revenge against an seemingly irredeemable monster, discovering that the monster was capable of genuine transformation was profoundly disorienting. Admiral Krixtal was the first to break connection with the ritual matrix, his crystalline form flickering with chaotic energy patterns. "This changes nothing," he declared, but his voice lacked the certainty it had carried before. "The dead cannot be brought back to life by the destroyer's newfound conscience." Commander Veltara emerged from the connection with a completely different perspective. Her ethereal consciousness had been able to penetrate deeper into the dragon's transformed nature than the others, experiencing not just its memories but its potential futures. "Admiral," she said softly, "the creature we came to destroy no longer exists. What stands before us now is something unprecedented in galactic history." The other species representatives began sharing their experiences from the ritual. Captain Thorax of the Hive Minds had felt the dragon's newfound understanding of collective consciousness and cooperation. General Zephyr of the Winged Republics had experienced Zarthul's amazement at discovering that flight could be used for exploration and joy rather than just hunting. Each representative had glimpsed aspects of the dragon's transformation that resonated with their own species' values and strengths, but the most profound testimony came from Sage Quintara of the Ancient Scribes, a species so old they remembered the original cosmic tree from which the fragment had come. "The ritual has revealed something that changes everything we thought we knew about the Destroyer," she announced. Zarthul was not born as a predator. It was created by the same cosmic forces that eventually gave rise to humanity. Its hunger and aggression were a corruption of its original purpose. The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembled fleet. According to Sage Quintara's ancient knowledge, cosmic dragons like Zarthul had originally been gardeners and protectors, designed to nurture the growth of civilizations across the galaxy. But without the guidance of the cosmic tree, they had gradually devolved into predators, their protective instincts twisted into destructive hunger. The fragment didn't just change the Destroyer, the sage continued. It restored it to what it was always meant to be. We are witnessing the first cosmic dragon to remember its true purpose in millions of years. Admiral Krixtal's crystalline form flared with conflicted energy patterns. The ritual had forced him to experience not just Zarthul's guilt and transformation, but also the dragon's desperate desire to somehow make amends for the countless lives it had taken. The predator he had spent centuries hating was gone, replaced by something that seemed genuinely committed to protecting rather than destroying. On Earth, Dr. Chen watched as the fragment projected images of what was happening in the cosmic judgment. She could see the hegemony representatives struggling with the implications of what they had experienced. Their entire identity had been built around opposing Zarthul, and now they were being asked to accept it as an ally. "This is the real test," she said to her team. "Not whether Zarthul can change. We've already seen that it can. The question is whether the other species can change too. Can they let go of their hatred and work together towards something better?" The fragment suddenly projected a new vision, one that showed possible futures based on the decision the hegemony was about to make. In timelines where they chose continued vengeance, the galaxy eventually fell to threats far worse than Zarthul had ever been. Ancient parasitic entities that consumed entire star systems, void-born predators that made cosmic dragons look benevolent, and cosmic plagues that turned civilizations against themselves. But in timelines where the hegemony accepted Zarthul's transformation and worked with humanity to establish a new galactic order, the results were extraordinary. Species that had hidden in fear for millennia emerged to share their knowledge and culture. Dead worlds were restored to life through cosmic gardening techniques. The galaxy entered a golden age of cooperation and growth that lasted for millions of years. Commander Veltara was the first to make her choice. "The Ethereal Confederacy votes to accept the Transformers' offer of alliance," she announced. "We have seen its genuine remorse and its commitment to redemption. More importantly, we have seen what it could become with proper guidance." One by one, other species representatives began adding their voices. The hive minds, impressed by Zarthul's newfound understanding of collective consciousness, voted for acceptance. The winged republics, excited by the possibility of having a cosmic-level ally in their explorations, agreed to the alliance. Even the normally cautious ancient scribes endorsed the Transformers' redemption. Admiral Krixtal found himself increasingly isolated, as his alliance partners chose cooperation over vengeance. The crystalline being's hatred for Zarthul was too deep, too personal for him to simply let go. But he was also a military leader who understood the strategic implications of what was being offered. "You ask me to forgive the destruction of my entire civilization," he said finally, "to work alongside the creature that consumed everyone I ever loved. This is beyond forgiveness. It is beyond possibility." Zarthul's massive head turned toward the Admiral, its 6 eyes reflecting cosmic depths of regret and understanding. "I do not ask for your forgiveness, Admiral Krixtal," the dragon said gently. "What I did to your people and your world cannot be undone or forgiven. I ask only for the chance to ensure that no other civilizations suffer as yours did. Your hatred of me is justified and right. Use that hatred to keep me accountable, to ensure that I never forget the weight of my past actions." The proposal was unprecedented, the destroyer asking its greatest enemy to serve as its conscience and moral guardian. Admiral Krixtal would not be asked to forgive or forget, but rather to channel his justified anger into ensuring that Zarthul remained true to its transformation. 5 years after the cosmic judgment ritual, the galaxy had transformed beyond recognition. The alliance between humanity, the reformed Zarthul, and the hegemony of former enemies had created something unprecedented in galactic history. A civilization based on cooperation rather than competition, growth rather than conquest. Dr. Sarah Chen, now director of the Cosmic Gardening Initiative, stood in the observation deck of humanity's first interstellar vessel, watching as Zarthul worked to restore life to a world that had been dead for millennia. The dragon's cosmic fire, once used only for destruction, now served to ignite the cores of dead planets and create the conditions necessary for new ecosystems to flourish. Progress report. Admiral Krixtal, Dr. Chen said into her communication device. The crystalline being had accepted the role of Zarthul's conscience and accountability partner, a position that required him to constantly monitor the dragon's actions and motivations. The transformer maintains perfect adherence to restoration protocols, Krixtal reported, though his voice still carried undertones of vigilant suspicion. 17 systems have been successfully restored to habitability, with over 40 primitive civilizations now thriving under cosmic protection. No incidents of predatory behavior have been observed. The partnership between humanity and Zarthul had proven more effective than anyone had imagined. Humans provided the dragon with emotional guidance and creative problem-solving approaches, while Zarthul offered cosmic-level abilities that could reshape entire star systems. Together, they had developed techniques for accelerating planetary evolution, nurturing emerging civilizations, and protecting vulnerable species from natural disasters. But their greatest achievement had been the discovery of other cosmic entities that had been corrupted like Zarthul had been. Deep in the galactic core, they had found 3 more cosmic dragons, their consciousness twisted by eons of isolation and predatory behavior. Using the lessons learned from Zarthul's transformation, the Alliance had successfully restored 2 of them to their original gardener nature. The third dragon, Morgoth the Voidrender, had proven more resistant to change. Its corruption ran deeper than the others, and it actively rejected attempts at restoration. Currently, it was contained within a specially constructed dimensional prison, while researchers worked to find a way to reach its buried consciousness. Dr. Morrison, now serving as humanity's ambassador to the Galactic Cooperation Council, transmitted an update from the Alliance headquarters. Sarah, we've received confirmation from the Outer Rim territories. 3 more civilizations have requested inclusion in the protection network. That brings our total to over 200 species working together peacefully. The network had grown organically as word spread about the Alliance's success. Species that had hidden from galactic civilization for millennia emerged from their isolation, drawn by the promise of protection and cooperation rather than conquest. The Alliance offered advanced technology and cosmic-level protection in exchange. For cultural exchange and mutual assistance, Earth itself had become something of a pilgrimage destination for beings across the galaxy who wanted to understand how humans had managed to transform the galaxy's greatest predator into its greatest protector. The Amazon facility where the fragment had been discovered was now a shrine visited by representatives from hundreds of species. The fragment itself remained active, continuing to provide glimpses of possible futures and serving as a guide for the Alliance's decision-making. Its visions had led them to prevent 17 potential galactic catastrophes, from rogue artificial intelligences to cosmic plagues that could have consumed entire star systems. Zarthul, to Dr. Chen, came the dragon's voice through the cosmic communication network it had established. The restoration of Kepler 442b is proceeding ahead of schedule. The first generation of indigenous life forms should emerge within the next solar cycle. I wanted to thank you again for showing me what it means to create rather than destroy. Even after 5 years, the dragon's gratitude and wonder at its transformation remained profound. The creature that had once been the galaxy's ultimate nightmare now spent its days nurturing new life and protecting vulnerable civilizations. Its cosmic abilities, once turned toward destruction, had become tools for healing worlds and fostering growth. Admiral Krixtal's voice cut through the communication channel. Transformer, your emotional state readings are approaching the threshold we established for mandatory rest periods. You have been working continuously for 47 standard days. The monitoring system had been Dr. Chen's idea, based on her observation that Zarthul sometimes pushed itself too hard in its eagerness to make amends for its past actions. The dragon's guilt over its millions of years of destruction motivated it to work almost without rest, but sustainable change required balance. The Admiral is correct, Dr. Chen added gently. Remember what we discussed about the importance of rest and reflection. You can't help others if you exhaust yourself. As Zarthel reluctantly agreed to a rest period, Dr. Chen reflected on how much had changed since that terrifying day when the dragon had first appeared above Earth. Humanity had not only survived their first contact with a cosmic-level intelligence, they had somehow managed to help it become the best version of itself. The fragment's visions continued to show possible futures stretching out before them. In most timelines, the Alliance continued to grow and flourish, eventually encompassing the entire galaxy in a network of cooperation and mutual support. Some visions showed humanity and their allies spreading beyond their home galaxy, carrying the seeds of cosmic gardening to other parts of the universe. But the fragment also showed darker possibilities. Timelines where the Alliance failed, where old hatreds resurged, or where new threats emerged that tested their cooperation beyond its limits. The future was not guaranteed, and maintaining their unprecedented galactic civilization would require constant vigilance and commitment. Dr. Chen, Dr. Morrison's voice carried a note of excitement. We're receiving a transmission from the Andromeda Galaxy. It appears to be a distress call from a civilization under attack by something they describe as star devourers. They're requesting assistance from the cosmic gardeners. Dr. Chen felt a familiar thrill of purpose and possibility. The Alliance's first interstellar mission would be their greatest test yet. But it was also proof that their influence was spreading beyond their home galaxy. The cosmic gardening movement that had begun with one fragment and one transformed dragon was becoming a universal force for positive change. As she prepared to coordinate humanity's response to the distant crisis, Dr. Chen remembered the fragment's most persistent vision, a future where every star system in every galaxy was home to thriving civilizations that worked together in harmony. It seemed impossible, but then again, so had transforming the galaxy's deadliest predator into its greatest protector. The universe was vast and full of dangers, but it was also full of potential. And as long as beings were willing to choose growth over destruction, cooperation over competition, and hope over despair, the potential would continue to unfold in ways that even cosmic consciousness could barely imagine.